Here we are in NSORRA round 5 in Craigmore, Nova Scotia. I'm running the intermediate A class. This is a 2-hour Hare scramble. Didn't have a great start. Sitting at 10th position coming into this turn here now. I knew, 2 hours, typically there's a lot that can happen, so this early on in the race I was just trying to stay close to the front of the pack, just trying not to let the top 10 guys get too far ahead. Seems to be a challenge that I always run into. I just get a little further back in the pack and trying to make up that time. It's super challenging. Everybody, kind of the top 5 guys were running really fast, so like in order to finish top 10, which was my goal for the day. First goal was not to go over the bars like I did in round 1, and then the second goal was to finish in top 10. So that was where I was at mentally at this point. I'm just trying to get settled in. I knew I just need to conserve my energy. My fitness isn't great. I don't necessarily do what I should to be more competitive, but it's more for a hobby than anything. But running a new suspension setup on the front. I've only got 4 or 5 rides on it at this point, so still working out the kinks and getting a feel for that. Coming up this little hill, I got off to the side and there was a rock there and it just stopped. It was pretty abrupt. One guy got by me while I was down, and I was in 3rd gear at that point, just couldn't get it going. Anyway, right now I'm sitting at 12th. Anyway, so little mistakes that make a big difference at the end of the day, and it seems like I'm really good at making mistakes, so it makes my job a little more challenging to kind of keep up to the top 10. And anyway, just try not to get discouraged here and just kind of do my race. A lot can change. Here we are coming up the mountain. It's kind of some flowy switchbacks. This is the first lap out, so I was certainly using this more of a sighting lap. But it is a lot of fun. This is probably one of my favorite tracks. It is a little more hilly and challenging that way, so I do enjoy that. We don't necessarily get a lot of that in our other races in the circuit. So being at the September 28th, the weather's getting a little better. I think it was like 18, 19 degrees maybe this day, a little overcast, so it made for really good temperatures. We got a lot of rain Friday evening or Friday, but it actually relatively dried up good, so the dust level was really good, which made it nice. Traction was really good, so kind of came down there a little quicker than I anticipated, and it was a little loose at this point. Kind of slid funny into the corner. Luckily I was able to get around the inside of that tree. Coming through here, it's kind of deceiving how closed in it is, but you can't really see far ahead. But I knew at this point, just to be competitive in that top 10, I needed to kind of push my comfort zone, so I'm just trying to hang with the guy in front of me. And up into here, the first lap was pretty good, and then this moss started to deteriorate as the race kind of went on, and a lot of roots underneath the moss that got exposed, and it was kind of a 90-degree on and off camber, so ended up being a little problematic as the race went on. I think I heard somebody yell behind me, so I think Kathleen Tobin's not too far behind. I scooted by 2 guys that were sitting there waiting to go up, but it is what it is. There was room to get by, and I wasn't really sure what was ahead, but this mossy hill was causing a little bit of problem for a few people, so they must have been waiting there, but anyway, it is what it is. In this video I cut it down. It's a little under 20-minute video, or right around 20-minute video. I just try to take out some of the sections where there's nobody around me. It's a little less interesting to watch, but my plan is once the results for the race come out, I will make a full lap video of my fastest lap, just for people that are curious to see. But coming down into here, this was a new section, and at the time I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but we kind of turned into this creek bed, dried up creek bed, and wasn't really what I was anticipating or expecting, so this kind of got my heart rate really jacked up, more because I overthink things, and that's just how I ride. I try to make things as challenging on myself as possible, apparently, but anyway, still a little excited, and you know, trying to, it takes me a little while to settle into these races, so anyway, I knew I just needed to calm down. I came up here, majority of the pack is stuck in this creek bed. Kathleen asked if she could go by. Being polite, I said yes, but anyway, at this point in the game, we're not out here winning any money, so I know Kathleen's a good rider, so I was actually kind of thinking maybe if I could get behind her, she could drag me along. She usually finishes really well at the end of the race, so I ended up taking the right line just because there was a couple guys there and trying something different to be, I don't know if it worked out, but anyway, I did get by a couple people there. There's a rock there and just couldn't get the rear up over it. Luckily I had drag guards on, so it didn't push up my radiator too bad, but just had to give her a little push up over that last little rock there. But a lot of guys struggling here, a lot of bikes revving, a lot of spinning going on. I think there's some guys here that are in the expert class that left a minute before our intermediate A group leaves, but you just hear bikes revving and screaming and spinning, and there's just a lot of commotion going on, which unfortunately gets your heart rate up even more, gets you a little more jacked up, just the excitement and everything. So I just knew I needed to calm myself down. Anyway, I stalled it there on the last rock, so I was trying to conserve energy at this point. I was kind of monitoring my heart rate. This first 30 minutes of the race, my heart rate was the highest it was the whole time, so I knew I just needed to settle down. At this point, I'm pretty tired. I can already tell, like, I used a lot of energy getting through that section, and anyway, I'm behind Spencer, and he's running the expert class, so I knew I wouldn't see him for very long, but I was just trying to regain some of my energy and just get my breathing under control, get the heart rate down. So I was like, if I can follow him for a little bit, just kind of keep a pace maybe that would push me a little bit more. And section through here, there were some roots, they were kind of rough and gnarly there. A lot of downhill stuff, but it was actually fairly flowy as the day went on, but the pace certainly picked up from here. But one thing that I just noticed, I took a drink, and that was another thing. I end up not drinking a lot, and then by the end I get fairly dehydrated. Come up this brook, and we're supposed to pop out onto the road, and front went up over, but my rear slid in, and it's hard to tell, but it's up to my waist there, so I end up doing some kind of odd pivot clutch pop thing. Anyway, it got the bike turned around. I was able to get up out of the brook. Not pretty, but it worked. And coming down after the gravel pit, there was this new section I've never run before, and kind of a left-hand turn into a tree, but it's hard to tell on the GoPro, but it's quite steep, so anyway, that was a interesting spot there. There was one time I goofed up there. I think I threw that in the video a little later, but coming back to that spot where I hit that rock and fell over, but this time coming around wasn't an issue, so back into that mossy section. The roots are definitely starting to get more exposed there. It's hard to see on the camera, but you can start to see it's quite a bit of a side hill. Once again, the camera doesn't show that very well. Looks like some people were waiting. There might be some struggle there. Kind of couldn't really figure out if I should go up high of the tree or keep to the low side. Going up to the right, it definitely was fairly steep at the top, so anyway, I'm still trying to figure out best lines here coming up the brook. This is the second lap, so Spencer from the expert class. So it looked like he was just having a little break there, but anyway, I kind of was trying to keep a little bit of a momentum. I find it helps rolling through some of the rough rocks. Not sure where I am in the scheme of things. There's a lot of bikes in the brook the last time. There was a lot going on. There's some bikes sitting there. There's a guy off to the left. I'm not sure if there was supposed to be a shortcut there or maybe a little easier. But less people on the brook this time, so I was like, I just need to pick my way through, good clutch and throttle control, and try to conserve some energy. But a lot of loose rocks. Kind of see on the high side there was a bike that went by that I just saw there. I didn't actually, there's another one. I didn't actually count how many went by. Oh, there's a third guy that I just saw. So apparently, I didn't find this out till after they had blocked off this brook trail and you just stayed on the main trail to bypass it. I'm suspecting it was a little out of the comfort zone for a lot of people. Some guys are pushing, some guys are spinning, and these are really talented guys in front of me, so I'm like, it was kind of rewarding to know that I was struggling and to see people that were better than me struggling. I'm like, okay, it made me warm and fuzzy inside that we were all in the, kind of the same boat at this point. So anyway, that, I don't know if it was a whole lot faster getting up there. I didn't really time it. So there's another guy going around the bypass there. So I'm not really sure how many guys got by me in that brook section, but I know it's the luck of the draw. If I had come through maybe a little slower, would have I missed that section entirely? Maybe. But some rocks there kind of put me off camber a little bit there. But coming up out of that brook again. Ditch. This time I was able to come out of it clean and not have to turn around. This hill was fairly loose, but I found if I got on the gas too hard, it just spun more and was kind of more violent. So coming down into the gravel pit, this is where I went over the bars in the first round, but wasn't seemed like the boulders were starting to get cleared out. Back in that mossy section with the roots. Looks like Kathleen got hung up there halfway up. And of course, just no momentum and fell over. Just a hard spot to start from, which probably in my head I knew it was not a great spot to try to start from, but it is what it is. A little bit of a route there, and I wanted to get up over that so I could get back on the bike and figured I could get the rest of the way over. But somebody sneaks by on the high side there, which is a good pass there. And another guy, he's in the 50 plus, so coming back up one of the switchback hills, coming back up towards the top. Just saw my camera shake back there. I think I vividly remember that section being really rough, and I was trying to sit to conserve energy. Let a couple of the expert riders go. I think that was 3 of them that I let go by, but definitely need to do something with the rear suspension. Oh, you can see that this hill. I goofed up. I went a little too far before I cut down, and there's a bit of a drop off on the right, so I didn't want to get off the trail, so I just kind of left her in gear and let her drag down. And it's hard to tell, but I'm not very tall, so getting on these bikes sometimes is hard. And I hopped on the thing, and it definitely didn't look as sketchy as it did in real life, because I didn't know if my leg was going to get over the top of the bike or not, or how it was going to end, but worked out. Try the high side on that mossy hill, and it's kind of more of a straight shoot, worked out. And then at the top, like, it was just a slow motion. And obviously that's a sigh of frustration, but anyway, so just something I had to think of next time around. Traction wasn't bad, but I guess I just lost the front a little bit there. I'm running a tube in the front, so running a little higher pressure than maybe I need to, but I got a pinch flat a couple days before the race, so I was probably a little paranoid that it was going to happen here, but I probably could have got away with a pound or two less. It probably would have been all right, but it's getting loose at the first section of that mossy, and then those roots are getting real exposed. It's hard to even flow over it, but and of course I spun and fell over. It's off camber there, it's hard to tell, but anyway. Come out of that one mossy section and then back up to the other. And I got off maybe too far on the high side, and she tipped over on me, but got it back up and got her rolling, not too bad anyways. Just made a lot of little mistakes throughout the race. Nothing major. Didn't cause any catastrophic events. Looks like a lady had to struggle on those routes, and I went around on the high side. Kind of just a little pivot around, and it seemed to actually end up being a little better traction up there, so less people were using it. So yeah, it might have took me a little longer to get around the high side, but it's sure better than picking up a bike. That first route was getting pretty exposed there, but just did the straight shot up over the high side, and that one was a little less eventful at least. So this is the later end of the race. At this stage of the game, I was happy that I was able to kind of maintain a pace that was fairly consistent. I'm looking forward to seeing the overall lap times just to kind of see how consistent. But aside from a few little errors here and there, the bike's in one piece at this point. My main goal for this year was to do all 5 races. We get to scratch one race for the season. One of the races I had a hand injury and I just couldn't use my clutch as well, so I ended up not finishing that race, but that will be the one that I scratched. So my goal for the last race was to complete it, just to make sure that I had 4 full races for points for the season. My goal was to sit in that mid-pack. Ideally I'd love to have been top 10 for the year, but we'll see how that works out. Overall, first year in Intermediate A, really enjoyed the class. The competition's super tight, a lot of really good riders. I do need to work on my fitness and my cardio to kind of be able to push the boundaries a little bit more. That's one thing, I get fatigued quite quickly, so there's always room for improvement. But for the first year out, really happy with how the bike worked this season. I didn't have any really big mechanical issues all season, so that's always a bonus. Definitely with the stock rear shock, it's much harsher than the front, so I think definitely some room for improvement in the rear. So aside from that, just kind of practice on kind of the pace. I'm more into the slower technical terrain, so these races are a little higher speed than what I typically do, so I need to kind of get used to running faster. But that will come with time. Last time coming down into the gravel pit here, at the end of the race it actually cleared out pretty good, so you're able to carry a fair bit more speed coming down that hill, so just kind of actually started to enjoy that. It was a lot better than going over the bars like I did in the first round. So anyway, coming into the tail end of this race here, certainly my goal over the winter is to get that rear suspension kind of set up a little bit better. But overall, the intermediate A class seems to be a good spot for me. A little longer than I'd like, so I do need to work on my fitness and cardio, but you know, overall I was able to start all 5 races this season. Bike's in one piece, didn't have any major mechanical or injuries, so but looking forward to next year. Hope everyone had a great season. I do have another video to come as soon as results are out for my fastest lap. Hope you enjoyed.